This is a quick video for parents telling them everything they need to know about Typing Club. So here is the sheet that I give you to print out. It has the days of week across the top. I want students to put in how many stars they get for each of these lessons for each day of the week. And this is a screen scrape from Typing Club. So in order to log in, I now have my own Achieve Now Typing Club account. I haven't had one in the past. In the past, it's just been something I've used for one, if not 2 days of the course. But in order to really track progress, students need to be using typing.com. But a number of students were having difficulties with the time tests. Time tests are really important because they allow me to measure progress. That's the only way really you can measure progress. So I use Nessie Fingers to begin with, and that's where we do our baseline time test. And by the time the children come to Typing Club, they've already done all the lessons on Nessie and they know the whole keyboard. And that's why I do a fast track. And this is the fast track, and I put it together because when I just taught students with Typing Club, they found that it just took too long to know the whole keyboard, and they got bored and they lost interest and they weren't motivated. So in order to log on, we need to go into this URL. And because this is aimed at primary students who don't have their own email address very often, we set it up such that the user ID was first name dot last name. And the password is actually password with a lowercase p because Typing Club, when I had my own school account, they made them all lowercase p. So I don't know why, but it is lowercase p. But if for any reason the student struggles to sign in, do let us know, because sometimes their first name dot last name has gone and we have to think of other user IDs. So here we see the lessons. There's the lesson number there, which corresponds to this lesson number in typing.com. Now in Typing Club. Typing Club wants you to start at lesson 1. So when the student just clicks on 17, they get a warning message, but I tell them to be a rebel and just go straight to 17. 17 and 18 I think are wonderful lessons. They are the main reason we use Typing Club after Nessie Fingers, because it really helps students to use the right or the correct hand when typing. So I think these are absolutely lovely lessons. Now, every day I want students to note the number of stars they get for each sub-lesson. So while this says 17 is the lesson, within 17 there are many sub-lessons. But I don't expect students to do every sub-lesson in 17 on the first day. And if a student finds a lesson hard or boring, I just want them to do 2 or 3 of them and go on to the next lesson down and the next lesson down, but return to those lessons on subsequent days until they are consistently getting 5 stars. And this is what 5 stars looks like. Now, Typing Club want you to do every lesson. So in this example, when you finish lesson 18, it will push you to do lesson 19, 20 and 21. And it's absolutely fine if you do that, and many students inadvertently do it. But if you want to stick to the fast track, you have to intentionally return to the lesson overview. But if you prefer to do every lesson, that is fine. And if you're finding it very hard, then maybe you do need to go back and do earlier lessons. So if the student is finding it hard, they might need to go back and do earlier lessons. Now, in the example I just gave you of doing lesson 17, here at the end of the lesson, it gives you the number of stars, your accuracy and your speed. And you can say after doing that, try again, which is absolutely fine, or go on to the next lesson. In this instance, if you go on to the next lesson, it will take you to lesson 18, which is on the fast track. That's great. But if we just finished lesson 18 and we didn't want to go to 19, we could try again, do the same lesson 18 again, but we don't want to go to 19 because we want to stick with the fast track. We need to come up to the back arrow here, and that will take us, well, it actually gives you this little upward arrow, and you say, yeah, we'll get out, and you go back to the lesson overview. So that's what we're aiming for, 5 stars, but I don't expect students to get 5 stars straight away. So here we see students have gone through and they're nowhere near getting 5 stars, but they're still just doing the fast track, and they're working through, and they'll carry on going. This, for some reason, the student didn't do this day, but they're going to carry on going until they consistently get 5 stars. Sometimes a student's personality impacts their typing more than their typing ability, because for some students not to get 5 stars, not to get 100% is just hard for them. It's just part of learning to type, but if they find it very hard, some students just insist on going through the lessons, getting 100% and getting 5 stars. And if they do that, they'll do it far, far slower. They're still going to learn to type, but I just don't want them to give up before they could become proficient typists. Now I've signed into Typing Club as a student, and we see that this is the lesson plan, and these are the time tests, and there are actually, I've added some more time tests after the webinar last night. Children asked me for new time tests, so I've actually got some I've got some excerpts from books that should be interesting or more interesting for students, and the idea being I've made them longer tests so they can get into the text and hopefully maybe want to read them. So let me go back, and these are the lessons, so we can see the lessons that this student has done, and we can see that they're getting 5 stars. To show you with Typing Club, this is a video, and then these are lessons and review of the lessons, and then this with the Ninja is a game. So the Ninjas are always games. This is a game, and when you see the little play button, they are videos. You can see where your children have got 5 stars. If they've got 5 stars, then they don't need to carry on doing the games, but I do think it's always worthwhile doing 17 and 18. I think they're really, really helpful games. And we'll see that here we see that a student has only got 1 star here, but the fact that they've got 5 stars in later games, I think they gave up on that because it was just getting boring. We see here that the student's even done well with numbers. Numbers isn't on my fast track. It isn't something that I am concerned about children learning, because in order to do your homework you don't need numbers. I don't expect them to type their maths homework, so I tend to just be concerned with letters. So if you want to see how well your child is doing by way of activity and progress, we come to stats here, and we can see what the student has done overall this week or today. Now, as it happens, they haven't done anything this week or today, but if they had, then these circles would change. And then you can see accuracy, coverage and speed. And Typing Club works more on coverage. And we see the information here. It's saying that she has practiced this week, but then this is saying she's done nothing this week. So I don't really trust that. And I know students say, look, I've done more than that, but I can only report what it tells me, because obviously I'm not in the room with your child. And here it's telling you the darker shades are what has been mastered more, and the lighter shades what has been mastered less. It tells you which fingers. I find Typing Club provides an awful lot of information, but it doesn't give me the information that I need for recording progress. When I have supervised training, I work out every child's progress every evening, and I do that on Excel. After the supervised training, I do it once a week, but I don't get the information that I need from Typing Club. And so at the moment I'm creating lots of Excel spreadsheets, and it is very, very time consuming. It's worth explaining why I made the exception and allowed the primary students to use Typing Club. The backbone of how I record progress is the time test, and it's how I measure progress in the lessons, and it's how I measure progress every week, and it is a huge motivator for students on the whole to see how much they've improved. So it is intrinsic in the way I teach typing. And we had a number of students who were really struggling to do the time tests. And the reason they were struggling is because they did not get any help with where to direct their fingers. And in all the lessons, you get this at the bottom that's telling you where you need. So it's saying Eric, so it's going to highlight the E. And I couldn't do this in Nessie Fingers, and I couldn't do this in typing.com. But here within typing, you can, or within settings of the keyboard, you can say switch on or off the keyboard, and you can actually say what you want the keyboard to look like. And this was the only one that allowed me to switch it on. And I didn't want those that were struggling to be really discouraged because they couldn't do the time tests. And that's why I've allowed Typing Club to be used. As we're now in the final hurdle, students need to be able to do a time test without the help of seeing where their fingers go, because they don't get this help when they're typing their homework. In which case, it makes sense to swap to typing.com, because you can see complete progress of what a student has done over time in typing.com. Whereas here, the same as Nessie Fingers, I can only see the last best attempt and no history. And at the moment, I'm downloading information into flat files to try and work it out. I had absolutely no idea it would be so hard to get the same information from Typing Club. I don't want to mess children around. If they want to carry on using Typing Club, they can. But I will admit defeat that I cannot continue to try and give weekly progress reports. So they will just know at the end what their final time test was, rather than progress throughout. Whichever solution you and your child decide to use for the last 2 weeks, I would strongly recommend that you switch off the keyboard when they do the time test, if at all possible. While students are using both Typing Club and typing.com, it's very hard for me to accurately report student activity, particularly as I don't really trust what Typing Club says. I hope you found this video helpful.